right. This week on Jaywalking, I sit down with Mama Yoder. So in the house, in the flesh, we're going to talk about it all. It's going to be a great episode. You're not going to want to miss it. Make sure you share, like, subscribe, do all the things. Enjoy the episode. We'll see you next week. Well, welcome back. We got another episode of Jaywalking in the house. Very special edition because Mama Yoder's in the house. Mama Yoder, how are you?
I'm good, John.
Yeah,
Or Jay.
Yeah, see, well, you gave me the name, so I guess you have the right to call me whatever you prefer. How do you feel about me going by Jay instead of John?
Well, originally I named Jonathan, but I thought your initials is what you would go with, Jay, but it never caught on.
I agree. It did. Well, it did catch on. It just took 38 years. Yeah, I remember because we had like the backpacks. You remember when the backpacks and you'd get the initials on the back, and we moved a good amount of times, and I thought maybe it would catch on. Never caught on. Never caught on until the pandemic and the open mics. I just start putting J. I just put my first initial down, Jay Yoder, because I was like, we're the Amish last name. We're not Amish, but the last name being very common around here. I was like, oh, that'll be great. Because there was another teacher that was at the district for me for years that went by Josh Yoder. And so I'm like, oh, well, Yoder's such a common name. You know how many people stop me? Do you get this a lot where people ask you if you're related to so-and-so?
Yeah.
I get that. Like every day somebody's asking me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, well, thank you for coming on today.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm taking you for lunch after, so that's part of your payment. Yeah, you had a rider. You had the green M&Ms had to be in here. It was a lot of, a big ask. So we're glad you're here.
Tootsie Pops.
Tootsie Pops. Yep. Classic. I know. I'm glad you're here. This is very exciting. So what do you want to talk about? Floor is yours.
Oh, it's your show.
It's my show. I get to talk about, this is great. I like this. No, so obviously I started comedy really late. What's been your take on everything I've been doing with all this craziness, quitting teaching? I'm crazy. You must think I'm crazy, do you?
Absolutely not.
You don't think I'm crazy?
No. You got to do what you love. And you were getting tired of teaching.
Yeah. I mean, I liked the kids. I did, but I was getting fatigued. There was a great reel I watched the other day where it was like a man and a woman talking. And they were talking about how, like, teachers in general, like, a lot of times you can go from being, like, the golden child in a district to the problem child, and not because you did anything, but because you're doing too much. And so it was something that kind of spoke to me because I felt very isolated and alone where so much was asked of me, and I stepped up and I did so much, and then all of a sudden, because I did so much, you would think they would live like that, but instead they didn't like that. Because then it creates more work for them. And then so it was just hearing somebody else say how I felt, like, it was nice to hear. And it was just like, okay, I'm not alone. This is a thing, because when you dedicate yourself to something for 21 years, you assume we're a family, and you're like, no, this was a business and they can choose to run the business how they want. But I think a lot of teachers go in it because they say for the love of the kids and for the love of this. And, at the end of the day, it's a business.
I guess.
It's just it was very disheartening the way it kind of ended. But, since I've committed now, it's like all these great opportunities have come along that it's kind of like, wow, I don't even remember what it was like teaching. I don't remember. I can't even imagine the school ends this week. So by the time this airs, school will be out for most schools. And it'll be my first time in like 2 decades not knowing what that's like, it's, I don't know, it's very weird. I just couldn't keep track of it. So, but no, I'm glad you're here. And you've been working in schools recently. What have you been doing in the schools?
Last year, helping the teachers with kids who have special needs who don't get the attention they need. So I've been second and third grade mostly.
And it's funny because you didn't have any formal training in that.
No.
They just essentially they're like, it's a lot of seniors who are not working or, retired.
Want something to do,
give back to the community. You guys get some kind of stipend or something for your time. Mm-hmm. In typical education fashion, definitely not proportional to the amount of work you're doing, I'm sure, but that's how education rolls. But no, that's cool. And I was surprised when you told me you were going to do it. because you've been a nurse for so long, and, which is, again, you're helping people, but it's a very different skill set than,
I didn't think I'd like it.
yeah,
And I fell in love with it the first day,
yeah. And now, yeah, did it, and you pretty much did it the whole school year, right?
the whole year. Yeah.
Are you going to go back next
I
year
go back in July for summer school.
for summer school? I love it. I think that's great. That's awesome. I didn't think you were going to like it either. I thought you were going to immediately regret the decision, but
Yeah. No, I didn't.
yeah, well, that's good.
There was a little bit of what you experienced. I did the job real good, and now I can't go back to that school. I have to go somewhere else.
They're like shipping you off. They're like, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's why I do remember when I was, you had said something to me when I was, getting into comedy more, and you're like, oh man, when you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. But I think I get a lot of that from you, I would say. You're very ambitious.
Not as bad as you.
You're not as bad as me. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, you always had me in a ton of activities growing up, though. I was doing tons of stuff.
But I mean, even with the cheer dad stuff, I mean, I see books all over the house on cheerleading. It's stuff like you dig right in.
Yeah.
You study it.
So I will say I did get a really good book. It was called The Pioneers of All-Star Cheerleading. And I was actually on a podcast with a woman. Her pen name is SR Fabrico. And she writes a lot of nonfiction, but she's also a gym owner and helps, was a cheerleader herself and kind of gives back to the community. And so I was on her podcast, and so she sent me the book. And it's actually really interesting because it's it gives you all these people who were involved in the last 4 decades of cheerleading. And so I've gotten to sort of get an understanding of some of these people I'm meeting and seeing and talking with. And so, yeah, it's an easy read. It's a fun, just keep it next to my chair in the living room to kind of, because it's massive. I mean, the thing is looks
I would have thought that was a thing.
Yeah, right. I was joking about that. Cheerleading, I always thought was just what the quarterback's girlfriend did during halftime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's somewhere between it's kind of between CrossFit and the North Korean military. It's somewhere in the middle there. Where they're like, yep, the supreme leader Kenzie is not pleased. And so it is. It's like this. I mean, it's the athleticism, the organization, and there's a ton of there is an army on that mat. There's I forget how many athletes in total, but you could have up to 30 potential athletes on that mat. Then you have alternatives in case one of them gets injured. I mean, it's bigger than a football team on a field. You know what I mean? You have more people you're coordinating at the same time than you would most other sports. So, and they started a pro cheer league, so they actually have a pro league that are started with 4 teams, and now they expanded to 6. And so then they compete against each other, but then they do skills challenges where they have to do the tumbles, and then they have to land on a specific spot. And so it's kind of neat to see that cheer's been blowing up.
You found funny in that, huh?
Yeah. Well, I think, it started with when I took Alicia down to that Pop Warner National by myself, and then I couldn't go into the elevator with her. I was, you assume when you have a special needs kid, you're always with them. And so we're trying, and the woman's no, sir, athletes only. And I'm I used to be an athlete. I was yeah, I'm a 3-time JV All-Star. What are you talking about? I once ate 15 school hot dogs in a single sitting. When you let me through, but she didn't. And I spent the rest of the time making videos just about the merch table, all the ridiculous things I was seeing. And it was funny how much people resonated with it, and it took off. And now I'm going to be doing a 12-city tour this summer, going all over from Canada to San Diego and everywhere in between. So I don't know if you guys have been following, but I am releasing San Diego and Plano, Texas this week, but we're kicking off in Atlantic City on the 6th, so that'll be after this airs. Tampa Bay, July 1st, Chicago, July 8th, Ontario, Canada, and Hamilton, July 12th, Kansas City, July 26th. Point Pleasant, New Jersey. We might add a second show because the first show is almost sold out. That's August 2nd at Uncle Vinny's. Then I'm going to be August 9th at the Punchline in Atlanta, which is also doing well. We got over 50 tickets already sold for that, and that's not till August 9th. And then August 15th, I'm going to be at the Port in Baltimore. August 16th, Jam and Java outside of D.C. and Vienna, Virginia. And then, where am I going after that?
I have no idea.
I think I'm going to, I know where I'm going. I'm going to Plano, Texas, August 30th. And then I'm going to San Diego, California, September 13th.
And it's all cheer.
All cheer dad, all cheer themed. I am I've like board teacher shows in between, and I just had my first theater show. I did an hour at the Pittman Theater, and that was not cheer related. That was just the culmination of like the last 5 years of what I've been doing with stand up, which was really cool. So yeah, it's helped me kind of diversify my portfolio within comedy, which is kind of cool. It's like, the teacher niche, because niche, I don't know how people pronounce it, but that whole concept of like just finding a lane where people respond, like the teacher niche was the thing for a while, and now the cheer dad thing. So it's been great. I really love how well everybody's been so inclusive. The community's great. So you haven't gone to any of the competitions. You're a bad grandma. How do you feel about that?
Cheerleading?
Yeah.
I hate cheerleading.
Oh, way to get me canceled. This is great. No, yeah.
I'm just not used to it.
I know.
I've been to Lisi's. I used to take her to all their competitions.
Oh, yeah, but since you haven't come to some of the bigger competitions like the AC, and we'll have to get you out. Well, you have to come. Actually, well, I won't say, but if things go the way I hope they're going to go soon, we'll be going to a lot more competitions, and so you'll have to come along. That would be great to have you see the because it's an experience. It is. I mean, and we did sport. You had me in sports, and you came around to all my baseball games, and that's why. So it's basketball, all the crazy karate, gymnastics, ballet. Yeah, you had me doing ballet at one point, right? I did ballet. Tap. I did theater, singing, tap. Yeah. Was that just to keep me busy? What was the deal? Why did you have me in all that stuff?
Kids that are busy don't do drugs. Isn't that what they say?
Wow. I guess they say that. They were wrong.
You just could never sit still. I had to keep you busy.
Yeah, that's true. I'm the same. Yeah, I guess I've always been that way. I can't sit still. I always have to be doing something. Mm-hmm. I tried to relax once. It just didn't work.
Once.
Yeah, I just tried it. There was one weekend when the girls were away, and I was just home alone. It was just me and the dog on a Friday night, and I didn't have a show or anything. It was so weird. And I just remember I ordered in Indian food and just watched a movie. I made myself watch a movie and put my phone away and just watch. It was a horror movie. It was kind of interesting. I did like it. I forget the name of it, but it was these kids had disappeared from this one class except for one kid. And they were trying to figure out what happened to all these kids. So they just randomly at a certain time at night, 2:06 a.m., they all just left their houses. So they had all this ring camera footage of these kids just leaving the house. No idea where they went. And then the whole thing was and then there was one kid from the class that didn't have that happen. And so it was all about figuring it. It was crazy. I forget the name of it, but it was interesting. It's on whatever they're on. There's too many services now. Do you watch streaming services? What's your TV show of choice now? What are you watching?
It's not much on anymore.
You say that, but your granddaughters rat you out because Alicia will come in.
Out?
Yeah, and she'll be like, "We're gonna watch Flip That House."
I don't watch that. No, I never watched that.
I was like, "Is that on CNN or HGTV?"
No.
What are you blowing up my phone? You're running the podcast right now. Can't silence. Worst podcast guest ever. You can't take this woman anymore. It's so funny that it's ringing because your phone is never on. It's always on silent mode, and you never know how you got it on silent mode, and then you can never get it off silent mode.
Yeah, they're in town now.
Oh,
well, I have to turn it off when I'm at school, and I have to carry it because I have to tell time because I have to move from Gladstone.
How did the Romans tell time without cell phones? This is crazy.
They had clocks.
They had clocks?
Yeah.
They did they? Were they digital? Yeah, well, you're teaching the kids. Is that what's happening? Oh, man, we're in trouble. We're a nation in trouble, guys. No, that's cool. Yeah, so grandma, life's treating you well. You've been a grandma now for 12 years, almost 13 years.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, and it's funny because you moved down here to live with us right when Alicia was born, and then we kicked you out.
Yeah.
And
threw me out.
And now you have your own apartment.
It
was the first time. It was the first time you ever lived alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you were 70 the first time you lived alone.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's wild. And do you like it?
Yeah, I do.
And then Friday nights you still have sleepovers at grandma's. which is good. I think that's good for them to have instead of just going into the room. They have to go to a separate thing. Although Alicia likes to escape, she tried to get to you recently. Did you know that she left
No.
again? Yeah, we had so I was at a show and then the Wi-Fi went out, and Amanda like texted me. She's like, Alicia like left the house again, and they got her before she got to 724 or whatever. But she was heading to your house for Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Yeah. So thankfully we have the watch now from Angel Sense, so that helps because like we went to a grad party the other day and Alicia and Katie wanted to go for a walk and it was at like a park, and so they were able to go off on the walk and I was able to track them because it has a thing in the app called runner mode where it refreshes the location more frequently. I guess under normal circumstances to save battery life. It's like every couple minutes it updates. But if you say runner mode, I guess it refreshes every so many seconds.
Okay.
And then I was able to like call them if they got too far. And I mean, Katie was with her too, so that's good. You know, we knew she'd be fine. And they were good. It was nice. They took a nice long walk together and then they came back, had a little food, and then they took another long walk together and came back. So it's been interesting giving them a little bit more independence. Katie's been walking the dog by herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she asked me the other night when I was watching.
Yeah, and so she did that with you, and then I let her do it the other day. When Lacey and I left for her baseball game, we passed Katie as she was walking the dog. I mean, it's hard because when Summer pulls,
Yeah.
you know, like there was another dog. Thankfully, it was the next door neighbors walking the other neighbor's dog for them. So, but it's nice having a neighborhood like that where they can kind of walk around. I mean, because, you know, felt like when I was 10, when I was Katie's age, I was just on the bike. It was gone. You never knew where I was.
Mm.
And you just knew I'd be
Felt
back.
safer. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least he scares me.
Well, yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, because you just, you know, you don't get the sense of like that she has a sense of rational fear.
Yeah.
You know, she can just walk out in traffic impulsively and just not quite get it. You know, we had that, you know, early on with that. You go to the beach and the waves would be coming through and she just, again, no clear sense of danger. Which is a pretty typical thing with kids with autism. They just don't have that sense of fear, which is terrifying, you know, watching her walk. And then again, she wants more autonomy now. She wants more independence. You know, it's hard.
I don't know how you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, at the same time, it's like, listen, if we don't do it, if we don't like give her a little bit of space, I mean, the world's, you know, this is going to be her world without us at some point. So it's like, she's kind of got to navigate and go through those things, and it's tough. I mean, it is. It's tough to do.
You don't know how much to warn her about either.
Yeah. It's, you know, I was joking on stage the other night about how, like, we used to do, like, little rhymes or stuff with bathroom because she would, like, come out of the bathroom impulsively, like, with her pants down, you know, because she would forget to lock the stall door, and you're, you know, coming up with little songs like, you know, we lock, you know, what was the one? It was something like we, close the door before we drop our drawers, you know, or like we, you know, after you wipe up, you have to swipe up your pants, like just trying to come up with stuff. And then still the one time I took her to like the railroad and she came out with her like cheer skirt around her ankles yelling, "Dad, Dad." And I'm like, what happened to the song? And she's like, my button was a bother, so I called for my father.
She did that.
No, she didn't, but that was a joke. But that's the joke I tell on stage. And it gets a pretty funny reaction. But she did. Well, the buttons and the cheer uniform were like kind of like onesie, like kid style. So she just couldn't grab, you know, she just sometimes the motor skills aren't there for some of those finer details. Like when she, and now that she's reaching puberty, it's sort of, you know, what she is. It's been, you know, it's like hard to tell what's hormones and what's sensory overload. You know, what's the puberty, what's the autism? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
The answer is yes.
The sweetest kid.
You know, but I didn't tell you this. So we were at, so she's been going to this social, you know, like you had taken her a couple of times to that Wednesday one. So somebody got a grant and they were able to fund a middle school girls group for kids in like 5th, 6th, 7th grade. And so she's been going to that. And I guess they talk about processing feelings and all sorts of like things they might encounter in social situations. And I think I started seeing some like remnants of it happening because we had baseball practice on Tuesday, and we always have a team from the Little League that like volunteers to come be our buddies so that the kids who need some extra help can have somebody to run the bases with them and whatever. So I introduced Alicia to her buddy for that day. It was some girl from a softball team, like a 10U team. And Alicia just goes up to her and she's like, "Are you a he, she, or they?" That's what he said. And I'm like, "Alicia, wait till you see how she handles the balls, okay? That'll tell you what you need to know." No, but I was just like, "She's a she." And I'm like, "Wait, is she a she? I don't know what's happening." But it was just, I was like, just go play baseball. What are we talking about? But it was just so funny because it was just this moment. I was just like, and she said it so casually. I mean, she could not have said it more casually. And I was like, there was no, so just the world we live in. So, she's trying to process all of that stuff, but she's clearly doing really well with the socialization, the speaking, the, leaps and bounds from where I thought she'd be. Mm-hmm. But middle school's coming up. I'm nervous about that because we're in sort of a battle with the district just because, it's hard because Amanda works in the district. She works for special education. She writes IEPs. So it's like we have the most inside information ever on how it all works. We're very educated. We both have multiple master's degrees. Yeah, I've studied autism. She's studied autism. So we have a lot of information. So we're a nightmare for them. And they're about to find out because her teacher now was a very nice woman, but she's we're trying to prep for middle school and they're just putting everything in a cookie cutter template. It's not very individualized if you're just cookie cuttering the answers and copying and pasting. And so we're kind of coming up against that. And it's almost like, when you get a call from a telemarketer and they can't veer from the script and you're just talking to a wall, it feels like that's kind of where we're at. It just feels like we're talking to a wall. We're like, hey, we're trying to be proactive. Hey, we're trying to, make sure the middle school teachers have information from the elementary teachers, and there just wasn't a good. And then the woman that does the IP just keeps emailing back. Well, do you want to have a meeting? No, because the last meeting nothing happened. It was like talking to a wall. We don't want more meetings. We just, So we were like, so you got to play the game of refusing to sign stuff, and it's just, it is.
I hope she's going to have an aide where she's got it, and not one of the school-assigned ones.
Yeah, so we'll keep fighting for that. So yeah, it's gonna be a battle, but it's one of those things where it's like they knew the transition was coming eventually. We've been the last 3 years, I'll say, have been pretty nice compared to how much we've had to fight before that. So it's just our turn to go back to battle again.
Yeah, it's funny seeing the differences between teachers too. Some are excellent, and some aren't.
Oh, you mean just from being in the school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Oh, so that's interesting. So, yeah, because you get to kind of be in the room while they're teaching.
And there are some very excellent ones.
Do you think, and now is there, obviously without naming any names, but is it age a factor? Do you notice any trends in age of, is it the younger, middle-aged, older teachers?
No, middle-aged, no. It's no different.
So you've seen good of all of them.
Some of the younger ones are good. Some of the younger ones aren't very good.
Yeah, because I think, you think the younger ones, they're still trying to figure it out and they're kind of surviving and, they might not have all the experience with the different things that come up and, then you don't have the stock reaction ready to go. You have to experience it a few times till you're like, oh, so you need a few years under your belt. They say 10. I would say the first 10 years sometimes you're kind of just flying by the seat of your pants. But then there's that sweet spot. So potentially when you're 30 something on, but then you get burnt out. So there's just this fine amount of time in the middle
where you're in good
where
shape.
you're you really got it going on. You're this flow state. Because in the beginning you're just taking fire from all sides, just trying to figure out which side am I on? Where am I?
And even the support staff.
Yeah.
The ones that have an aide like Alicia versus the ones who have a school-appointed one.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's true because with the outside organizations, obviously they're heavily focused on whatever the thing is that they're working for, whether it's autism or whatever, ABA, versus the school's just hiring a warm body to be near that person for 6 hours. Mm-hmm. And, I think a lot falls on that person to want to take on a better understanding versus just do the job. That's the hard part. A lot of people in the pay doesn't exactly inspire
Right.
passion.
Plus, we're vested. We want the best for her.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing is they'll never, it'd be rare to have somebody be as good as we would want someone to be.
The one she has now is
Yeah.
good as we'd want her to be.
Yeah. You mean the aide or the teacher?
No, the aide.
Oh, the aide. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think she's great.
And she's retiring.
Yes. Yeah, well, there's always a high turnover rate with that. At least he's gone through so many aides. I mean, that'll be a strength for her because she now knows how to meet other people and get used to other people. And so it's the middle school, it's just the middle school age in general. It's going to be just a different beast.
Yeah. She's gotten a lot of laughs for you.
Yes.
Inspired your career, I think.
Yes. She's been great. I don't want like kids. I don't just want to see her get bullied. I just don't want that like glimmer to go out of her. Like she's got so much hope and she's happy and she's, I don't want her to be like in a place where she doesn't want to go to school or and I know it's coming or stuff's going to happen eventually, but I just, she's so happy and hopeful and cheery and she's got so much, she has her meltdowns and she has her hits the big red button, but like
she's the sweetest kid.
But she's gonna be very sweet. Yeah, I mean, she did tell me she wanted to kill me, but aside from that, it's like the nighttime, the transitioning at nighttime to like no more devices before bed. Like it's a bull. You got to ride that bull for a while.
I was waiting to see if the time would come when she didn't want to come to Grandma's anymore because she was getting to be a teenager. But she's still.
Oh, she was very upset the other day when she couldn't go.
Not able to take her. Yeah.
Yeah, she likes going to Grandma's house, very much so. Yep.
Tell her to call me. I'll come get her. She can't walk.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, there's only so much you can do, and during the daytime, and it's hard for Amanda at night because I'm out. And then we got to we set those like wedge alarms because she doesn't have, thankfully, she doesn't have the fine motor skills to turn it off.
I know.
So it's like good. It's like this mouse trap that the mouse knows is there, but the mouse still is going to fall for it. And so it's just, Amanda can't set that wedge alarm until I get home. So there's that period of time where she has to stay up till I get home sometimes. And that can be late. Even Friday night.
That's why every time that phone bumps for the angel sense, I'm on it.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, because you've called me.
I annoy you because I call you.
Yeah, you called me. We're just on a walk with the dog. Yeah, we were just on a walk. Yeah, so now I'm trying to get proactive and be like, hey, we're on a walk. Yeah, yeah, and thankfully she loves wearing the watch, but it's just the charging it, making sure it's on. Because, it could happen. She can get responsible. Yeah, she's responsible with. If she was responsible with that, you'd love her to just be responsible with not leaving the house by herself.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't. Yeah, you don't get to pick. You don't get to pick the strengths and weaknesses. You just have to roll with the punches. Yeah, it's hard. It's been a challenging time, but now it's I don't know. You've been doing it so long, you just kind of learn how to roll with it and. I don't know. I mean, she might be with us forever. I was trying to think about because a lot of families set up a trust fund so that there's money. Because I wouldn't want Katie. I've told Katie that. I mean, Katie's gonna.
Katie's told me you've told her.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't want her to feel. I want her to want to help Alicia, but I don't want her to have to help Alicia. I guess is what it is. I want them to have the relationship they have and. Love each other. And Katie's got that in her. Katie just has the empathy in her. So I want her to have the resources so that, she's got the help and the aid. And, I think Alicia is in a position that she could be in almost like where you're at, where she has her own apartment, but it's in in a setting where people check in on her. And, and I know there are those kind of things available.
I worked at them, I remember.
Yeah. So it's I think I see her having the ability to live semi-independently.
Living arrangements, they call them.
What's that?
Community living arrangements.
Yeah. So I see her doing that, at some point. And but even yesterday with baseball and some of the things we have her invested in. So yesterday at baseball, she didn't complain at all. Normally, she didn't ask for any breaks. She just took her breaks when she was in the dugout when she wasn't hitting and. She played ball. She even went out in the beginning and played catch with Zach and Ethan, just the three of them. without me there, like, guiding it. They just kind of kept going and kept throwing it around, and she didn't try to quit early. She yelled at Zach because he didn't throw it. She missed it, and it went too far, and so she kept yelling at him. But other than that, they got along pretty well, and they just kind of did it. So it was nice to see. I mean, it only took 8 or 9 seasons, so we've been doing it, but yeah, she didn't complain. She got out in the field every time. It was a beautiful day out too, so that maybe helped. And she wanted to just get lunch after and go to a bookstore, so Amanda took her to a bookstore, and they're actually going for manicures for her graduation ceremony on Wednesday. So they're going to get manis and pedis today. So that's the only reason we have to be home at some point early, because she has to leave with them. But yeah, no, this is great. So what else we want to talk about?
I don't know. I think your comedy's going amazing. I think that's. I never expected it to take that off.
You think
like
I'm
that.
funny?
Yeah, I do. Except when you talk about me.
And when I talk about you, yeah, I will say I do enjoy talking. The thing I enjoy about comedy, and this is something that, like, a guy that I like. One of the guys, when I first decided to do comedy, and I really decided to go to my first open mic, it was after watching a special for a guy named Mike Birbiglia, and he did a show. It was called My Girlfriend's Boyfriend was the name of the special. And it was just this thing he did about how he met his wife and fell in love with his wife at a time when he thought he was never going to get married. And it was just this really fun story. And it was just like one-man show style, and he's clean and he talks about real stuff. And I just, just so enamored by storytelling and stuff like that, when he talks about comedy, he has a podcast called Working It Out that he actually featured one of my jokes. I sent in a joke and he actually worked it out on there. So I'm a big nerd for this show, and he says that comedy is really about saying the quiet things out loud, like being vulnerable enough to say the things that you wouldn't normally say out loud, And obviously, with the way our family was and stuff like that, that was not something you talked about. I joke about in my act that it was like only the Flintstones were allowed to have a gay old time. So it was like those kind of like concepts of, and now you see like today's June 1st, we're recording, it's Pride Month, and it's like all these businesses are throwing out these like logos and, and okay, it's maybe it's superficial or whatever, but still the fact that it's out there. So I had a joke where I was like, oh, Pride Month, and we had Hyde Month, and it was every month, and it was just like, like we lived in witness protection, But I can't imagine just such a hard. I mean, as much as I know you wanted to shelter me from anybody's, like, I don't know, that somebody was going to look down on me. But like, I just think about like how the challenge that it must have been for not just you, but people like that were in your position where, the world's telling you you're not allowed to feel the way you feel, and then you fight so hard to listen to them. You go against, it's almost like saying like, no, you're not allergic to peanuts, and you keep blowing up and going to the ER, and you're like, no, just love peanuts more and it'll be fine. And you're like, but I keep swelling up and I can't breathe. No, just pray it away. It's fine. It'll be fine. The peanuts will cure. And so I just feel for the people. I felt more for I guess for like you and even like my dad and all these people who lived a way that they didn't feel were their true self, I mean, I think that's more of a struggle than anything I could have had to struggle through.
Which is pretty funny. We were, Irene and I, my friend, were at a table the other day at lunch at the senior center. And the table, were 8 people. And she was the only one that wasn't gay or a nurse. There were 7 gay nurses at the table.
Well, is that, did you go, because I was funny because I saw on the calendar that you had put in a luncheon. Like it was was it that the sunflower or whatever or was that different?
They have it there.
There too. Okay, yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, you put it in. You even put it in LGBTQ luncheon. I was like, oh, look at that. Because I know, I can't imagine. Even though now the world is the way it is, when you grew up like you did, born in '54, going through these decades where you weren't allowed to talk about it, it's got to be hard even now at 70 to kind of be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna be open about it, And that's, I mean, it's why, and I always felt just my own self as being someone, adjacent to this department because I'm from this family that have people in the LGBT community that I felt like not able to share certain stuff, or even teaching at school and like wanting to share things like cool things, whether it was about Colleen and living in Australia and, just fun stuff that could have come up, like having to come up with a cover story about who I was referring to, or just being vague about my mom, and then it being like qualities that both of you possessed, it's just, or even like going to, like on Mother's Day and then deciding, do I have to change the apostrophe on the card to like make it feel more inclusive, and the fact that there was no term, and now you see so many open, like I listened to a podcast with Tig Notaro, Tig, right? So, and like I'm fascinated by her because her and her wife have 2 kids, and they talked about that they each had a name. One, like they call her Mare, which is like, I guess, a French version of mom, and then they call Stephanie, her wife, mom. I'm always fascinated by that because I was like, back then you didn't have terminology like that, or that wasn't happening. It was kind of like when Kamala Harris became the first female vice president. They're like, what do we call her husband? The second gentleman? Like, it's just, there was no code word for it. There was no, so it's one of those things that like I'll see so many people post now online. Like there's like a bunch of accounts. There's this one account called the Rainbow Dads, and they're like these 2 gay dads that have the son, and they're like huge on social media to the point where like the NFL and MLB, when they do like their Pride Days, like they invite them out to like throw the first pitch or be at the game and shoot content. And, it's like so cool to see people and have a kid at that age able to be proud of his parents. So there was a mom there was a photo where she was at Little League, and it was Mother's Day for the game, and the kid had 2 roses to give to his moms. It's like Carbondale Little League wasn't going to do that. You know what I mean? Like there was just things like that you couldn't have counted on then, that now are like people are doing TikTok dances with their 2 moms and doing all that. So it's just, there's so many accounts that I'll come across online that I'll just be like, oh wow, like I had to crawl in the closet so you could TikTok out of it with your moms. Like it feels. I mean, I part of me feels jealous. Part of me is that there's a jealous feeling that like, why couldn't I have had that same ability? Yeah, and then there's also this moment of like, I'm so glad for that kid that they don't have to feel the way like that they always were lying to somebody. I hate it all. I felt like we were all like the most mundane thing you could lie about. Being in the grocery store, hey, who's this? Oh, friend. Oh, sister, aunt. Yeah, like whatever story we were coming up with at the moment. It was just like, it felt like witness protection. It felt like we were in a new area. We're updating the dossier. Here's your new assignment. Without it being like that, it wasn't like we sat down and said that. I mean, did you have a plan? Did you like, what was your thinking through all of that when I was like, I don't remember us having a war room. We weren't like strategically planning out things. It was just kind of like as things happened, we reacted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
And then the thing I remember the most too is like when we would go up to P-Town, Provincetown, and I felt like was the first time it was hard to for me, it was like letting your guard down, but you could because you were in a community where everyone was. So that was the first time that it was kind of like, oh, there was some sense of feeling normal or some normalcy here where I felt like you guys could hold hands, or you guys could feel like you could be at a restaurant and we're not figuring out what the waiter is thinking, who these 3 people are. And, obviously there was an age gap. So I think a lot of times it was like they were like, oh, it must be mom and grandma and son and, stuff like that. But yeah, even going to restaurants, because we always would go out, like even back home with Sebastianelli's, all these like, we were always going out, but yeah, I don't know. It was just one of these things that we never kind of talked about, but we always just dealt with as it came up, kind of thing.
It's true.
Did you know that Dad was gay?
I knew before he did.
I figured as much. Yeah, because that's also
he had a best friend, and and when he found out he was furious.
Really?
He wouldn't even talk to him.
Wow.
And that was when I knew.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like, again, because I know he went into the seminary, and what do you call the female version of that?
The nunnery?
Is that really what it's called?
Convent.
The convent?
Convent.
The convent. which you had actually gone, but prior to college you went
19,
to, right?
yeah, when I was 19.
And how far into it did you go?
Less than a year.
So like a semester? You made it like a semester?
Probably, yeah.
And you're like, all right, I'm out. We can't pray the gay away. We're getting out. And then he did the seminary probably the same amount of time. Do you know?
Well, I think he was a little longer. Maybe
You went a little
year.
yeah. Okay. And then you went to the University of Scranton. Okay. And did you guys have classes together?
Yeah, I tutored him.
That's what I thought. Okay. Tutor. And then did you work at McDonald's together, or was that separate? You guys
Separate.
okay.
I did it when you were 8. You
Oh.
were 2 when he worked there.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. I thought you both. All right. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. I figured that as
When
much.
I was in nursing school, I did it.
What about Frankie?
What about?
Did you know? Did you know about him earlier? Because you were your brother,
No, I knew about him when he told me.
which was how old was he then?
He was probably about 16.
16. Oh no shit.
Oh yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, young.
So he didn't even like, go through a phase of like pretending to have a girlfriend, or
No,
did he ever try to? No, he never pretended for. Huh. That's cool. Okay. Well, I think that's interesting. Like the fact that he just. So that's interesting. So it's knowing that, and then seeing. Did he ever get mistreated as it like going through high school or anything like that, or it was just kind of one of those things you didn't talk
went to a
about?
special school.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
Oh.
Friendship House,
Oh, okay.
Scranton.
Okay, I had no idea. All
He
right,
was very popular there.
I'll bet he
With
was.
the girls.
He's
The girls.
he's the life of the party. So no, that's interesting. See, learning so much. There's so much, I've hadn't thought to ask about. Yeah, that's true. It was one of those things. Like, again, I think we grew up in an era where you're like, okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to ask about or talk about or what. And there was, for the sake of other people, we're saying certain things, and or even like the sleepovers, because I was pretty popular. And then like pretending that we had the guest room and that it was 2 separate rooms, and wonder how many people were just like, yeah, we know. Like
Steve.
Steve. Well, that made sense because Steve's mom was gay, so it was like. Which I didn't realize at first because I never met her, because it came into my life because she had passed and he went to live with his dad. But yeah, I would joke about that sometimes, where I'd be like, yeah, I finally met somebody who had also had gay moms, and I knew it because at the lunchroom our lunch boxes spelled of hummus and equality. But there wasn't this era like that, like where you were like not like a traditional, like, I guess, stereotypical lesbian in the sake of, I think in the parts.
I was a nurse at a Catholic hospital.
Yeah. And then you had sent me to Catholic school, and I went through all the sacraments of Catholic, there's all these things that were like, wait a second. But, other than like, you were really good at sports and, you could fix things and, short hair, all that stuff. There was fit the build. But after that, it wasn't like, I don't know, sometimes the stereotypical pieces weren't that way. So, yeah, I don't know. It was very interesting a lot of people always have a lot of questions for me. And then sometimes I'm like, well, I still have a lot of questions about it all. Because then I think there were times that maybe I wondered, like, for me, like, if I was gay, or like, is this just being passed on? Is this
Definitely weren't.
Yeah, right. Like, there was never a period, but it's just so funny with you're like, oh wait, your uncle, your mom, your dad, and you're just like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. This is this is just this is what it is. It is what it is. So I think that's it's very fascinating. So I know that I felt like I outed you a little bit when I would talk about it in my act. But like I said, I felt like I had to.
But I did.
Yeah, well, I always tried to do it tastefully. I had some jokes that I didn't tell because they were like, they were a little. When you start writing jokes and you're going to open mics, you want to get a laugh, and the people that are at these open mics are not necessarily the upstanding citizens. So sometimes to get them to laugh, you have to go to the lowest common denominator. Thankfully, I learned early the difference between the jokes you would tell at an open mic versus the jokes you would people would pay to hear you tell. And I clearly wouldn't have the career I have right now had it not been me learning that lesson early on. Because I think there is a way to tastefully talk about it. I think there is a way to normalize it. And even with autism.
So funny.
Yeah, even with autism. Well, I put out a post today about it because one of the cheer companies had put out about it, and so I put a little thing out there just saying how grateful I was with how inclusive Cheer has been to Alicia and autism. So to know that everybody in my family is included is great. That's, heartwarming for me, because I just, you don't want anybody to be excluded. I talked about it. I talked about some of the pieces in the show on Thursday, and Amanda said there was a couple that walked out during the gay portion of my set in the thing, and she's like, well, they were ones who were like cheering at some Trump joke from one of the previous comedians. So I think they just got overwhelmed with it, and then they like left, because I noticed a couple got up. I just thought they were old and had small bladders, but I guess Amanda had clocked it too, because she told me after, and I was like, yeah, you run the risk of doing that, but I would much rather those people not be there. Plus I already got their money. So I was like, I could care less. I like I'd rather make those people uncomfortable now. I'm almost like angry that it had to be the way it was, and that I couldn't stick up for it more then, or that, So now I feel like the same way with Alicia. I feel very protective about talking about it and normalizing it, and I don't want anybody else to go through that. Like when I was at school as a teacher, I remember going to the Gay Straight Alliance Club. It's called something else now, Equity Alliance or something. But I remember going there and talking about it to the kids there. And I had one girl, her name was Morgan. She came on the podcast last year and had said that she still remembered that moment of me coming in, and she was having a lot of confusion in her life, and it was helpful for her to hear other people kind of going through that struggle. So I think that's another thing that I would love to be able to talk more about. So, as I kind of go through doing more speaking gigs and things like that, and, adding in sort of the, LGBT inclusion, not just autism and not just teacher burnout, but adding sort of that to my repertoire of talking about and normalizing, whether it's in comedy or speeches. I think, that's another angle of my life that I'd like to share with people, that I think we need to keep our foot on the gas pedal now. Like, yeah, it's great that these companies are putting out gay pride flags on June 1st, but you still need to keep your foot on the gas pedal to get it to where we're really normalizing, or we're really getting comfortable with non-traditional families. And, I'm sure this won't play well in Texas and I have some people in Texas, but at the same time, like, I don't want to hide who I am to pander to people to like me. I don't want to do that. So, if this is a thing where you turn off, then that's where you turn off. And I'm okay with that, because I have plenty of other people that, wouldn't. So, and I don't, I'd rather sort that riffraff out now than down the line, so it's part of me, it's whatever. And so I want to be proud of all of that. So, well, I appreciate you coming on.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a good chat. And we'll go get some lunch now, because I'm really hungry.
Okay.
All right. Well, see you guys next week. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things. If you want to come see one of my Cheer Dad shows, go to jyodercomedy.com. It starts, July 1st in Tampa, ends end of September, mid-September in San Diego, and everywhere in between. And if your city's not on there, then DM me and tell me where to go, and we'll make it happen. So see you next week.